I do want to go to the conflict of interest and just, is there a protocol here that when witnesses come before that they declare a conflict of interest, or has that happened with any of the witnesses so far?
No, it hasn't happened.
No. Okay. So just, Professor Tonra, would you believe that you have a conflict of interest?
No. Chairperson, I don't think that's relevant to this discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry, the witnesses have been invited here.
Yes.
And they've given their presentations.
Yes.
And for people to come in and start questioning whether they have conflicts of interest or not is irrelevant, I believe. If there's a conflict of interest in the opinion of a member of this committee, they should have raised that before the witnesses are brought before this committee. And I want to put it on the record, every witness that has appeared here has been approved by the members of this committee. So if they want to go down, if people come in here and want to go down the road of conflicts of interest, it's diverting for the purpose, from the purpose of this meeting.
I think people's interests have been established anyway, so if we can kind of move on.
You've just diverted my attention from the question, Deputy, and I'm perfectly entitled to come in. And
I'm a senator, by the way.
Senator.
I don't know
well, you've just diverted attention.
I just remind you using the time.
Just unfortunate, I'm not using the time. The Senator has used the time deliberately. I think it's a very legit. I think it's a, if I could, Chair. If I could.
We've heard what you have to say, Senator Wilson.
If I could, honestly. We're entitled to ask questions and witnesses are entitled to respond.
Yes.
And we're talking about strengthening security in the world through this legislation is so broad it could include anything. And so therefore we're entitled to tease things out in terms of conflict of interest. And Professor Tonra, you're after clearly saying that you do lobby and you do represent the Irish security. What's the title of it?
I'm sorry.
I think that has been established.
Yeah, I just missed it. I just missed it with the interruptions. Okay.
Yes, so it has already been established.
So we're here, and if you could just look at, it's already been mentioned, the wide nature of this that will allow anything, number one. Number two, what we've been told repeatedly is the use of the veto, mostly by Russia in the past, according to the government, and they ignored America. The use of the veto would stop a peacekeeping force. Lately, we've seen America use the veto, isn't that right, in relation to stopping the conflict in the Middle East? Isn't that correct? They use their veto. And so, what I understand from the logic is we should be still sending a peacekeeping force through that to that area. Isn't that the logic? If you go, the veto of Russia stops us sending it, and we want to send regardless. So we want a different system. We want to stop the triple lock. So the triple lock will do away with the misuse of the veto and still send a peacekeeping or a peace enforcement. Isn't that correct? I address it to any of you, Professor Tonra, Mr. Murphy.
Not sure I got the question.
You see, the logic is all of the time is the misuse of the veto, predominantly by Russia, is the narrative. But we've seen lately an acute example of America misusing the veto. And so we want to stop the misuse of the veto by having a different system, pull out of the triple lock. Isn't that right? And that we use a regional organisation to send peacekeeping forces.
I mean,
isn't that the logic?
When I answered the question previously, I said, you know, it's not just Russia using the veto. China uses the veto, America uses the veto, and people use the threat of the veto. So you never even see the Security Council resolution.
Just stick on the practicalities. You see, what it said was it would stop a peacekeeping force going abroad. The use of the veto stops a peacekeeping force or a peace enforcement force. So let's take the most recent example of America using the veto. Should we now just ignore that and send a peacekeeping force or a peace enforcement force over to the Middle East?
What the current legislation requires is that for us to participate, it must have a UN Security Council.
I know that, but we said that we passed removing the triple lock. So is the logic then we would send...
There's no way that Ireland, with the troops it has, is going to mount a peacekeeping operation all on its own. So you're going to have some international body or some coalition actually engaged in that process, because you've operational you've all sorts of headquarters.
Okay, and who will do that now? For instance, we see where Europe is in relation to what side they're on in the Israel war, the war of Israel on Gaza. Who will determine that peacekeeping force? Germany, Europe, the UK?
If you could just answer that, and I've allowed a bit of extra
You did,
time
you
for
did.
the
Thank
other
you very
things.
much.
In the normal course, it'll be the European Union, or it could be the African Union, it could be ASEAN, but I mean, you do need an international group to come together to say this is a problem. It's not an issue for one state to say this is a problem, everybody come with me.
But you do see
So
that
my
has been
experience
exposed.
has been, right, over the long period of time that I was policy director, international organisations come together and see a particular problem. There may be countries within those organisations who don't particularly see a problem, but you do need that international dimension in order to bring a sufficient
Okay.
number of states together.
I'll leave it
Thank
at
you for the
that.
flexibility.